Hello everyone and welcome back to Practice, and in today's video we are going to do a second part of our first history chapter, the French Revolution. So in the last video we did it till the end of the first part, which was I think French society during the late 18th century, in which we discussed about middle class and what they did and what were the three estates which were there and what were the privileges for them and how they struggled in this old regime. So this three estate system was called to be as old regime, and how they destroyed some forts and other things. Now we are going to look upon the outbreak of the revolution on second part of the French Revolution. So Louis XVI had to increase taxes for reasons we have learned in the previous section. So yes, we have learned that Louis XVI increased so much taxes because of some reason that he has to maintain extravagant palace at Versailles, and he need to maintain his army and other arms and other things. So, how do you think he could have gone about doing this? So, we just talked about because of these laws, lack of these things. So, in France of the old regime, the monarch did not have the power to impose taxes according to his will only. So, now this old regime was having that monarch, means king, cannot impose taxes alone. He had to call a meeting of the Estates General, which would then pass his proposals for new tax. So they used to call some representatives from the all three estates, and they used to put a voting thing, and when in that voting, if more people said that we should impose taxes, then the taxes will be imposed, and if he said, and if more people say that taxes should not be imposed, then it will not be imposed. So the Estate General was a political body through which the three estates and their representatives. However, the monarch alone could decide when to call a meeting of this body. The last time it was done in 1640. So, on the May 1789, Louis XVI called together an assembly of the State General to pass proposal for new tax. So now again he called up a meeting to propose pass proposals of tax. So a representative hall in Versailles was prepared to host the delegates. So there was a hall, representative hall in the Versailles Palace to host the delegates. The first and second estates sent 300 representatives each, means with who were seated in rows facing each other on two sides, while the 600 members of the third estate had to stand at the back. So basically, what they did is they were having they sent first and second estate representative, 300 representative each, who were seated in rows, but the third estate members had to stand at the back. The third estate was represented by its more prosperous and educated members. Peasants, artisans, and women were denied to enter the assembly. So here, only the educated members and prosperous members were allowed from the third estate. Other were uh, other were not able to get into the palace as their entry was denied. However, their grievance and demands were listed in some 40,000 letters which the representative had brought with them. So they were not allowed to come in, but their representatives can carry their 40,000 letters. So voting in estate general in the past had been conducted according to the principle that each estate had one vote. This time too, Louis XVI was determined to continue the same practice, but members of the third estate demand that voting now be conducted by the assembly as a whole, where each member would have one vote. So here they are saying that uh, there are three estates, first, second, and third. First estate of clergy. So there were 300 representatives from the clergy, 300 from this nobles, and 600 from this what you call a third estate. So each estate makes up to one vote. So here they have a system that the one estate will give only one vote, signatures from all the 300 representatives. So it was ultimately depends on the clergy and the nobles that who what they want, because if they want to get it through the get with the king, so they can just give them the votes as as if they both give the vote to the proposal of taxes. So there would be two votes in the favor and only one vote in the opposition. So ultimately, third estate would lose. So, but this time, third estate members demanded that voting now be conducted by the assembly as a whole, where each member would have one. Now they want that only one member could have only one vote. Like if there are 600 representatives, there should be 600 votes from one estate. This was what they wanted. So this was one of the democratic principles put forward by philosophers. So again, this was put up forward by the philosopher Rosia in his book The Social Contract. When the king rejected his proposal, members of third estate walked out of the assembly in protest. So when king rejected this proposal, the members left the assembly and started protest. So the representatives of the third estate viewed themselves as spokesmen to the whole French nation. So the representatives thought that they were the spokesman for the whole French nation, because the peasants and the ones who are from the not educated ones, because as we studied the representatives, they were only educated ones. So they were the representatives and spokesmen for the whole French nation, which is third estate. So on 20 June, they assembled in a hall of an indoor tennis court in the grounds of Versailles. They declared themselves as a national assembly and swore not to disperse till they had drafted a constitution for France that would limit the powers of monarchs. So now what happened is, on 20 June, they assembled in indoor tennis court at Versailles. They declared themselves as a national assembly, that third estate people, and they swore not to disperse till they had drafted a constitution in France. So they said we will not go till the time we don't draft a constitution for France that would limit the monarch's power or king's power. They were led by Mirabeau and Eversailles. So Mirabeau was born in a noble family but was convinced of the need to do away. So as you can see, he was from the noble family, but then also he was helping these people, third estate people. So he brought out a journal and delivered powerful speeches to the crowd assembled at Versailles. So basically, what they were doing at that assembling hall, right? They were just giving speeches and brought out generals and cheering up these people of third estate. So as you can see, this sketch, the tennis court is there, and all the people are there, and I think this was in Russia. So this was a preparative sketch for a large painting by Jacques Louis David. The painting was intended to be hung in the National Assembly. Yeah. Abbassides, originally a priest, wrote an influential pamphlet called by his third estate. So Abbassides was from the clergy. He was a priest. Priest comes into the first estate, which is called clergy. So while the National Assembly was busy at Versailles drafting a constitution, the rest of France seethed with turmoil. A severe winter had meant a bad harvest. The price of bread rose. Often bakers exploited the situation and hoarded supplies. So when the third estate was drafting the constitution at Versailles in the National Assembly, the rest of the France due to turmoil means there was some kind of crisis. There was a severe winter, which meant a very bad harvest, and the price of this bread rose in a very instant amount. And the bakers exploited the situation and hoarded supplies. So they started giving it in the high prices, and they you are not supposed to make them in a very fast manner. So after spending hours in long queues at the bakery, crowds of angry women stormed into the shop. So they were supposed to make queues out of a bakery, and they were required to spend hours in long queues, and the crowds of angry once a crowd of angry women stormed into the shop. They get into the shop at the same time the king ordered troops to move into Paris. So at that point of time only the king ordered troops to move into Paris on 14th July. Again this 14th July came. So on 14th July the agitated crowd stormed and destroyed Bastille. So they destroyed Bastille because they thought the troops are there for the open fire on them. So in the countryside rumors spread from village to village that the lords of manor had hired bands of brigands who were on their way to destroy the ripe crops. So in the villages, it was a rumor spread that the king has sent their representatives to destroy the crops which they are growing. Caught in a frenzy of fear, peasants in several districts seized poles and pitchforks and attacked chattiers. So they start to they were caught in a frenzy of fear, and peasants in several districts seized poles and pitchforks and attacked chattiers. Chattiers was I guess their chattiers was there something. So Chatiet is a manor house or residence of the lord of the manor. So this is a palace which was of which was used to be of this France state. So they looted, hoarded, drained, and burned down documents containing records of manorial life. So now what they did it, they broke into the Chatiets and they looted, hoarded grain, the grain which was ready to be the grain which was ready, and they what they did they burned down the documents which were containing their manual use and the loans which they took from the government, and that all was destroyed, and a large number of nobles fled from their homes, many of them migrating to neighboring countries. So now nobles had thought that now our privileges are going to be took away, and they are making us uh, they are making our situation very bad, so we should just fled from our homes. So they just left their homes, and so many of them migrated to another country, neighboring country. Faced with the power of his revolting subjects, Louis XVI finally accorded recognition to the National Assembly. So after seeing this much revolts, Louis XVI finally accepted that there should be a National Assembly, and accepted the principle that his powers would from now on be checked by a constitution. So constitution also declared. So on the night of 4 August 1789, the Assembly passed a decree abolishing the feudal system of obligations and taxes. Members of the clergy too were forced to give up their privileges. Tithes were abolished, and land owned by the church were confiscated. So the land which was there, the church was confiscated by the National Assembly. Tithes were abolished, and they were forced to give up their privileges. This was all with the clergy, and the taxes and feudal system, all the things were removed, and now clergy was also required to pay the taxes. So as a result, the government acquired assets worth at least 2 billion livres. So they got this 2 billion livres, and as we studied earlier, they were having a loan of 2 billion livres. So their loan was completely rebated, as they got 2 billion livres. So the National Assembly completed the draft of the Constitution in 1791. So in 1791, finally the Constitution was ready to be launched. So its main object was to limit the powers of monarchs. These powers, instead of being concentrated in the hands of one person, are now separated and assigned to different institutions: the legislature, executive, and judiciary. This made France a constitutional monarchy. Figure 7 explains how the new political system worked. So what they did is, they just in 1791 they launched the constitution, and and its the constitution main object was to limit the powers of monarch, which was now limited, and these powers are under the different institutions, not under a single person. So let's get a look at this chart. So first thing, let's check. So active citizen entitled to vote about 4 million or 28. Passive citizen no voting rights about 3 million men, women, children, and youth below 25. So there were two types of citizens, active citizens and passive citizens. So only 4 million of population was active citizens and 3 million men was uh, having no voting rights, and women, children and youth were not given the, the freedom to vote, and youth below 25 also. So they vote judges for the judiciary, they vote electors, 50,100 electors, vote National Assembly, 745 members, and the control of the king, they took control of the king and the control of the ministers. So this was like this. So the Constitution of 1791 vested the power to make laws in the National Assembly, which was indirectly elected, that is, citizens voted for a group of electors. So the Constitution of 1791 vested the power and to make laws in the National Assembly, which was indirectly elected. So as you can see here, they are electing electors, and electors electing National Assembly. So it's an indirect election. So that is, citizens voted for a group of electors. Okay, this we are doing. Not all citizens, however, had the right to vote. Only men above 25 years of age who paid taxes equal to at least 3 days of a laborer's wage. Okay, so now there was one more thing, that these passive citizens, about 3 million men, were not paying taxes. That's why they were not giving them the voting right. There was a thing that if you are paying taxes, then only we will be giving you the voting rights. So that is, they were entitled to vote. The remaining men and all women were classed as passive citizens to qualify as an elector, and then as a member of the assembly, a man had to belong to the highest bracket of taxpayer. So they want, if someone wants to go into the assembly or electoral section, that he should be the one who is paying the highest tax. So this is Declaration of Independence. So and then its declaration that provides the Leona to Constitution. So the Constitution began with the declaration of the rights of man and citizen. Rights such as the right to life, freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, equality before law were established as natural and inalienable rights. That is, they belong to each human being by birth and could not be taken away. It was the duty of the state to protect each citizen's natural rights. So this constitution gave some rights to them, like India is also having the fundamental rights, so they were also having this natural and inalienable rights, which was right to life, freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, equality before law were established. So these were some of them. Okay. So these were some of the political symbols. The majority of men and women in the 18th century could not read or write, so images and symbols were frequently used instead of printed them. So there was people who were uneducated and were not able to read and write. So they used to make symbols for this, so that they can also read and write. So broken chain. Chains were used to fetter slaves. A broken chain stands for the act of becoming. So it acts as becoming free. So the bundle of rods or fasces. One rod can be easily broken, but if there are so many wrongs, the strength then it would not be break. So strength lies in unity. This symbol wants to say. So then the eye within a triangular radius thinks light. The all-seeing eye stands for knowledge. The rays of the sun will drive away the clouds of ignorance. So this is scepter, symbol of royal power. The snake biting its tail to form a ring, symbol of eternity. Okay. So it's just saying a ring has neither beginning nor end. Then we have red fire cap worn by a slave upon becoming free. blue, white, and red, the national colors of France. The winged woman, personification of love. The law tablet. The law is the same for all and all are equal for Christ. Okay, so I guess that's all for was in this part, and now our second part is also completed. So our two parts of the French Revolution is completed. Now three parts are left, which we would be doing in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye, guys. See you soon.